Hi, I'm Jennifer Potter, Executive Director of Be Well Texas. Too many people are struggling alone these days, and alcohol and drug deaths are increasing. We started Be Well Texas to offer high-quality, science-based addiction treatment and recovery services anywhere, virtually or in person. In many cases, there is no cost for treatment or medications if you don't have insurance. Really. Welcome to Be Well Texas. We're glad you're here. Visit BeWellTexas.org.
Hello and welcome to March to the Pod, presented by Eternal Roofing, a show that's a few minutes late because, good God, news is happening fast.
We'll probably get some during this show, honestly.
We very well could. So, glad you're with us. Thanks for joining. This is Season 2, Episode 18. The sky isn't falling yet.
Good way to put it.
We have some things to talk about. We got to be honest again today. Let's have fun with it. But first, we're going to look back at the men's basketball week, which included a trip to Indiana with our good friend Ben Sorrells here, before jumping into National Signing Day, transfer portal news, which is breaking every hour, as well as bowl game discussions as to where the Cats could play a bowl game. Then we're going to look at potential candidates for the head football coach and talk about that coaching situation, right? Like, who's going to be left? We know Skylar Cassidy's gone, and we know a few other coaches have committed to leaving. Who's going to be left? And a lot of that depends on who the next head coach is. Boy, do we have a lot to talk about. I'm your host and producer, Corey Hogue, the non-FBS insider at Dave Campbell's Texas Football. Find me on your favorite social media channels at Corey Hogue Sports. It's all one word, CORYHOGUE Sports. The knowledge of this show is provided by the creator and manager of sports of SHSU. Again, all one word. Looks like the guy right now, like, honestly, of course, let me finish that. Let me finish the read here. Sports of SHSU, all one word, Twitter and Instagram. The chief operating officer of Cat Fund, proud Bearcat alum, Ben Sorrells, who reminds me of a certain ESPN insider right now. Like, the phone is blowing up, man.
Yeah, it's been a crazy 72 hours for just breaking news through my page, being in Indiana at Assembly Hall last night. It's been a crazy week for us as a collective, trying to get things ready for new staff. We soft launched a campaign yesterday on Facebook. We're going to go fully live with that probably in the next 24 hours, talking to current players and just trying to figure out what we have. And it's been a crazy week.
It has. Before we get into all of that craziness, let's hear from our good friends over at Eternal Roofing.
Eternal Roofing and General Contracting is your choice for integrity work in the Texas Hill Country. Taylor Andrus and crew provide experienced quality roofing services with a mission of roofing with faith, serving with integrity, and sheltering homes in the spirit of stewardship. Don't just take our word for it. Here's what satisfied customer Pamela Allen had to say about Eternal Roofing. They did a great job on our patio roof, came out quick for a quote. The quote was very reasonable, and they started and finished work well and quickly. Not a bad thing to say about Eternal Roofing. Give Eternal Roofing a call today at area code 830-251-5673 or area code 936-215-8539, or you can email them taylor@eternalroofingtx.com.
Much appreciation to our friends at Eternal Roofing, who I'm sure are very busy because not only do they have roofing needs, they have Christmas lights needs right now. We don't talk about that enough anymore, Ben, to be honest with you.
They're in the thick of it now. It's go time. The week after Thanksgiving.
Yeah, it is. I put up the tree last Wednesday right before we recorded the podcast. Because, see, I'm one of those people, I think we talked about that before. Thanksgiving does not begin, or Christmas doesn't begin till Thanksgiving, the afternoon meal ends.
Yep.
Right? And so,
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah,
And,
look.
and speaking of breaking news during the show, Jaden Cardell, our punter, just entered the portal about 2 minutes ago. So
Sweet.
I told you it was bound to happen.
I mean, I hate to sound like, a fan, but is the kicker out yet? Like,
No, well, you're talking about Pavon. Pavon's still
yeah.
Sessoms is, and I got to remind people, Sessoms is still on the roster for next year. He was an all-conference kicker, but he did have a hip surgery during the season, so you never know what a kicker is going to look like after hip surgery. But you do have him coming back as of now next year.
Well, we'll see if Christian Pavon enters the portal. Anyway, Ben, want to start with your thoughts on being inside a place that's almost a mecca of college basketball, Assembly Hall, Indiana. Yeah, the Hoosiers won 97-71. Nobody was surprised. No one was surprised. No one went in there thinking Sam Houston was going to win. So that's not important. What's important is, Ben, how cool is Assembly Hall?
Yeah, it's legit. And thankfully, I mean, I had the incredible opportunity to sit right behind the bench and got there about an hour and a half early. Had a really good contingent of Sam Houston people there. Had about 40 to 50 of us there. And I mean, it's historic. And I mean, for a Tuesday night game when it was freezing cold outside against an opponent, probably not a lot of them knew. I mean, the whole lower bowl was pretty much completely full. I mean, they loved their basketball there. I got to go on the court afterwards. And I mean, you can just feel it when you're there. It's one of the historic arenas in college basketball. Fans are incredible. Atmosphere is incredible. And it was just really cool to experience, even though we did lose.
Did the ghost of Bobby Knight throw a chair at you?
He did not. But funny story, we stayed in my wife and I stayed in a hotel called the Graduate, and it's all Hoosier themed. It's themed after Indiana and the movie Hoosiers and all that. And on our floor by the elevator, there's a big picture, and it's just a chair flying midair. And it's the exact chair that he threw, and it's got like the little wind marks behind it. So no, didn't see his chair, didn't feel the presence of him throwing his chair, but definitely saw a reference to it there in the hotel.
Well, I mean, it's really cool to do stuff like that. Like, I had a chance once growing up. We stopped in Terre Haute, Indiana, home of Indiana State, where Larry Bird played, and he had a restaurant there. Larry Bird's Boston Connection. Inside the restaurant had his three-point shooting trophies, his gold medals, had the center court from his senior year at Indiana State. Like, there was just so much cool stuff there, and it was actually a restaurant hotel. I have no idea if it's still open, but right. It's really cool to see things like that, like that. And that's a really cool experience to get to have, not only for you, but for that team who was on a very long road trip.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So they left the Tuesday before Thanksgiving, and they got back probably this afternoon. So it was a Tuesday morning to Wednesday afternoon, 8 full days kind of trip. So, I mean, being down a couple players, being hurt on the road for 8 days. I mean, they were exhausted.
And during finals.
Yeah, and final season. I think finals are next week, I think.
Are they next week?
Yeah.
Different places do different things, of course, because different folks, different strokes, and anything else that could be deemed really. We're just moving on, Ben. Last week, speaking of that 8-day trip for men's basketball, they went 1-3. They went 1-2 at Live Oak Bank Holiday Classic in Wilmington at the multi-team event. They lost to App State 66-63. That's not a bad loss. They lost to Wilmington, North Carolina, Wilmington 69-60. Home court advantage type of thing, maybe. They did beat Colgate 82-78. They're 4-5 overall. But before we get into that part of it, there's been some discussion about multi-team events, also known as MTEs, which is a new abbreviation that people threw on me, and I had to figure it crap out. And one of those is that Hurley fella over at UConn.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Had a good time in Hawaii, right?
Well, yeah, I enjoyed watching his time in Hawaii. I got to tell you, man. Like, look, I get coaches, and this dude goes too far, right? Like, the coach, anyway. He's a big personality, but, man, you don't treat refs like that. And I see other coaches that do that too. I'm just not a fan of that. referees are people, for crying out loud.
Well, and I think other coaches will do it once a season. He'll do it 3 times a game to that degree. I mean,
Some coaches do it every single game. There are some of those.
There are, but I mean, there's really none to the extreme that Hurley is.
Well, not at the Division I level.
Right.
Might I bring you into some of the ones I get to see?
Oh, I'm sure some JUCO ball is. I've been around JUCO ball and stuff like that.
D2, man. D2 can be brutal on the referees sometimes. D2 and JUCO, yeah, those two are brutal. So anyway, teams 4 and 5 overall. How's the team progress? Like, what should we think of the team? They're almost 10 games in. Coaches always like to say, hey, this is where, give me 10 games. I could tell you about my team. Can he really right now?
No, I think for 2 reasons. The first one being you just have not had any continuity with lineups so far. You started with Marcus Boykin at point guard, haven't had him the last 3 games. We're expected to have Damon Nicholas, lose him for the season right before the season starts. So that was a big blow. You were without Cam Hoofner for 2.5 games. And so these are really important pieces to the team that you've just kind of had to mix and match, and they've been in and out of the lineup. And so I think that's been a big part of it. Number 2 is this schedule has just been brutal. You've played 9 games, 1 of them at home. You've also played Indiana, a really good MTE, and Baylor. And so it's just been a gauntlet of a schedule. And you played Nevada on the road too. Nevada's a really good team. And so you really haven't seen this team minus the MTE play comparable opponents. I mean, Tarleton, you could say is a comparable opponent, but they're just so down this year.
They're bad.
Did
you see them in Dallas Christian?
Yeah. I mean,
it was like 90-50.
Yeah.
Look, Tarleton, Division II Tarleton under Lon Reisman, would have been a 120-40 score.
Right.
This is not D2 Tarleton anymore.
And so you've really only had 3 games to kind of see where this team is at against comparable opponents, because App State's good. They're going to push to win the Sun Belt. UNCW is going to push to win the CAA, and Colgate's probably going to win the Pioneer League. I mean, Pioneer League sucks, but I mean, Colgate's probably going to win that league. And so those are really the only 3 games you've had to compare yourself against other teams. So you really don't know where this team is at right now. And I posted it last night over on the CAD Fund page, but Marcus Boykin is going to be back this season, probably a couple games into conference play, it sounds like. So you are going to get him back. So I think this team's going to start to be more whole around conference play, and hopefully we can know a little bit more about who they are and they can figure out a little more by conference play.
I just struggle with it because they're returning home. They have a home game Saturday, 4:30 p.m. against Texas Southern, and then they're hosting Division III St. Thomas December 16th. I just don't see.
You got Pittsburgh on the road. I mean,
Pittsburgh. Yeah, no, I mean, that's the thing. Like, before they start conference, there really isn't anything that we're going to know for this team. Like, they're going to be an enigma, and I'm not really happy about that, right? Like, I mean, you want to have some more of an idea heading into conference play.
And the play's been very up and down too, and part of that might be because the lineups are just so all over the place. But the first 10 minutes of the second half against Indiana last night, if that team can play that way, they've got a shot to win this league. They closed a 22-point gap down to 9 from the start of halftime to about 6 or 7 minutes into that second half. And they really put it on Indiana for about 10 minutes. And if that team can show up, I think they're going to be pretty good. I think another thing that's going to depend on how far this team can go for the next month is the development of Brennan Burns. Last night was by far his best game that he's had as a Bearcat. And coming up from D2 is a big transition. We saw it from Marcus Boykin's perspective last year. He really didn't come on until conference play. And so until Boykin gets back, I mean, Burns is going to have to shoulder the load at point guard. And he looked really good in the second half. I think he had 12 points in the second half. And so if you can get that kind of play out of him, I think this team can look good. But I think a lot of it's going to depend on that for the next month.
I'm a real Debbie Downer today. You know that? I
really am. I'm kind of in between.
Well, look, I don't know, man. Like, there's just, I wish we knew more. Like, I feel better. I feel like I know more, and I feel better about where the women are. right now. And I get it, like rotations, that's what you're trying to figure out these first 10 games. Can't do that when you've got injuries. So he's going to be figuring out rotations during conference play. That's also not a recipe for success. I mean, it just feels like there's a lot of things kind of they're really rowing upstream right now this season.
They are. And my hope for this season is you can find a way to get a top 4 seed in the conference tournament, be as healthy as possible, and go make a run in the conference tournament, because ultimately that's really all that's going to matter. And if they're playing their best basketball at the end of the year, which, I mean, they're not playing it now due to injuries and trying to figure things out, but if they can get to that point going into the conference tournament, I think they'll have a shot, because Western Kentucky last year was the 3 or 4 seed, and they were very up and down, but hit their stride right at the end and won the conference tournament. And so I think that's just kind of the hope, is you can figure it out there towards the end of the year.
CUSA is not a 2-bid league.
Yeah.
Right? It's not. So it's a 1 bid. So really, and see, this is where you tell me, shut up, sit down, Debbie, get off your downing, and realize that it's the conference tournament that matters, as long as they get it figured out by then. That is important. Also, to go back to that Indiana thing, when they, that big run, and that, yes, Sam Houston did, but it reminded me of something. Played for a legendary high school coach in this area growing up, and he won a lot of games, and he reminded us of that. He also lost a lot of games. He'd remind you of that too. At the same time, anytime we were playing a team we were obviously better than, to when I knew I would get some action at the end of the game, he would always tell us, guys, second half, they're going to make a run. It's basketball. They're going to make a run at you. You got to weather it and then take over and finish it. And that's really that plays off in a lot of basketball games when you're watching that. And I kind of got that sense last night at Indiana too, which isn't a bad thing. That's what's supposed to happen when you go play Indiana.
Yeah, I mean, they made that run like they're supposed to, but I think they ran out of gas there at the end. And Lamar Wilkerson getting his 4th foul with 10 minutes to go didn't help. I think he had 10 points in the first 8 minutes of that half. And so having him come out really hurt. And that's what Indiana will do to you. But, I mean, they've shown they can play well. I mean, and so they've just got to figure out how to get or tap into that more consistently, I think. And getting Marcus back in a month or 6 weeks or so will definitely help. And you got to have Brennan Burns step up. I mean, that's really what a lot of this rides on, I feel like.
It's an opportunity for other guys to come out and take hold and put their way into the rotation and show their value. But do not think that I am done being Debbie Downer yet. I have a lot more reality to bring today. But before we do that, I'm going to let everyone know we are a podcast on the Republic of Football Network and an extension of Dave Campbell's Texas Football. Please like and subscribe to the podcast and follow us on the various social media platforms, including Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at March to the Pod. It's all one word, March the number 2, the pod. And if you're on Threads, find us at the March to the Pod, the March to the Pod with the number 2 on Threads. And before we get into our next segment, and the next 2 legs, by the way, are all football, let's hear from our friends over at Eternal Roofing again.
Eternal Roofing only uses the finest materials in the roofing business while providing an exceptional warranty. Why do they use CertainTeed products? Because they complement any appearance, provide exceptional and reliable strength, and are known for their enduring performance. Here's what Shane Sosa had to say about Eternal Roofing. Taylor and his team are amongst the highest level of professionals. They care about their customers and go above and beyond just doing the job. Give Eternal Roofing a call today at area code 830-251-5673 or area code 936-215-8539 or email Taylor at eternalroofingtx.com.
To those of you watching us live on the different platforms, remember, you can leave comments. Especially if you're on Facebook and YouTube, leave a comment for us. We can answer, because we got a lot to talk about, and we're going to want to know some of what you're thinking in this as well. But we're going to start with some positive news. Bowl game. The Cats are still, I couldn't believe it, Ben. Like, when Keeler left and went to Temple and all this, I thought, well, hell, they went to bowl game. No, they still letting them play. Oh, goodness.
9 wins gets you in a bowl as far as I
9
know.
wins. It doesn't matter. It's still a good season. I know all of a sudden it doesn't feel as good. Yeah, we'll get there. But there's a bowl game, and I've seen the Cats mentioned, most prognosticators say New Orleans. It really looks that way. Some have said, I think one said Bahamas. While that would be great, look, let's face it, Ben. Let's just break it down and tell the truth. The lowest rated teams in FBS, the lowest conferences in FBS have always met in the New Orleans R&L Carriers Bowl. That's just what it is. And the Conference USA is one of those, and that's where that team's going to go. And you know what? It's okay. That's just the way it's going to be.
And I honestly think it's an upgrade over the Bahamas. I mean, it's obviously not a top tier bowl, but you get to play where the Saints play. You get to play in the Superdome, which is pretty cool. And then you get to play against a Sun Belt team. It's typically the 2, 3, or 4 team from Conference USA against the 2, 3, 4 team from the Sun Belt. And I'd rather play a Sun Belt team than a MAC team. A little more regional. Sun Belt's typically a little bit better quality. And so I don't mind the New Orleans Bowl, and fans can travel there.
Yeah.
I think that's a big part of it too.
Well, and Cats fans can go show out and listen. I mean, dude, if you're telling me, first off, I have to pick between the Bahamas, New Orleans, or Wichita Falls, Texas. All right. There's one of those that immediately gets eliminated.
Yes.
Oh, and it's not the Bahamas.
Obviously.
But New Orleans is pretty darn cool.
Yeah.
That's a fun city.
Yeah. Bourbon Street during Christmas time, I'm sure, is a good time.
Yeah, you go down there, raise some fuss, don't get in trouble with the law, go to French Quarter, don't take your kids unless, you've got a blindfold or something for them. You never know what you're going to see down there. But it's fun, man. It's a great place to go. And so you know what? It is the first bowl game in program history. This is what everyone wanted. And go show out and go show them. This is almost like a game at NRG. It's really not that far.
Well, and speaking of NRG, it's almost a guarantee at this point, but assuming you go to New Orleans, that'll be the third game for the Bearcats this season in a Super Bowl hosting stadium. They'll have played at Rice, NRG, and then the Superdome, which is pretty cool to say you've played in 3 stadiums that have hosted a Super Bowl in a single season.
Yeah, most people don't even know Rice hosted a Super Bowl, but they did.
Like Super Bowl 7 or something like that.
Yeah, I think they hosted 2 of them, actually.
They might have, yeah.
Correctly. Yeah, well, there was more going on today than just bowl game talk. It's also National Signing Day. That's it. The world's on fire. We don't have a coach. Hey, recruits, come sign with us. But there have been a few that have signed, and some of high quality. So, Ben, give us a rundown on what we saw from signing day today so far.
Yeah, so you had 9 players committed, 6 have signed as of now. Bryce Garza, the DB from Friendship High School up near Lubbock, doesn't look like he's coming anymore. Took his commitment post down, and as soon as he did that, got a North Texas offer and Louisiana Tech offer. So you can assume that he's probably going to North Texas, maybe with Cassidy, or Louisiana Tech also got a Texas State offer today, so he's probably not coming. Braylon Wortham, College Station safety, played a little bit of running back. He announced that he's delaying his commitment. He was a high 3-star guy, was originally committed to Louisiana Tech, decommitted, committed to Sam Houston, and now his signing is kind of in flux. And so he's one to watch. And then the other one that's kind of in limbo, I would say, is London Dion, the wide receiver from Galveston Ball. He committed, I think it was back in September. He's been committed for a while, but his official signing has not come through yet. He posted 2 days ago that he was still signing, but that hasn't come through. So you've got 6 of the 9 players that have committed, fully signed. I want to hit on 2 of them probably. First one is Jax Brown. He's the quarterback from Pflugerville Weiss High School. I think he was offensive district MVP as a junior. Top 70, 80 QB in the country. I think he's the highest rated QB we've ever had commit. So to get him in the door is really good. He did miss his senior season due to an ACL injury. So he didn't play this last year, but he is officially signed. He is an early enrollee. That's not really out there, but I know he is an early enrollee. So it'll be good to get him on campus.
It's out there now.
Yeah. So yeah, here we go. And then the other one I want to hit on is Logan Cahill. He was a part of that Prosper O line where all 5 guys are going Division One, and him coming to Sam Houston is probably the lowest of the 5 schools that are a part of that offensive line. I mean, just incredible what Prosper has going on there. He also had offers from a couple schools in state, Duke and Pitt, out of state, almost a 4-star kind of guys. So you got 2 pretty notable names in there that are going to be really exciting. You signed 4 others, obviously, but 3 have not signed yet out of that group of 9. And then I think the 2 to watch are Cahill, the offensive lineman, and then Jax Brown, the quarterback.
Yeah. Well, before we go too far, I want to get we have a comment here from Josh watching on YouTube. More fans can go to New Orleans than Bahamas, especially during holiday season. That is a wonderful reason to go to New Orleans, Josh. And you're right. I mean, that's what we're talking about. That is, I mean, if I had to choose, I'm choosing New Orleans for Sam Houston this year.
Sounds like you're going to get your wish, Corey.
I don't get many of those, Ben. 6 of 9 signing. I mean, that's not bad.
Yep.
At this point. You lost your coach, you've lost your defensive coordinator, your staff is in flux, a lot of things in flux. That tells you those 6 at least didn't commit so much to a staff. They committed because they liked Sam Houston, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, but it's really good. And I mean, to hold on to 2/3 of the class is good. It wasn't a big class to start with. I think I talked about this a week or 2 ago. I mean, the roster is going to be all over the place now, but going into next year, I think we were going to have 36 seniors on the roster. And so the plan was this offseason to fill with a lot of portal guys who were maybe a little younger, that had multiple years left, that could maybe be the number 2 this year and then have a year or 2 to be a starter at Sam Houston in 26, 27 kind of thing. So, yeah, I mean,
that strategy could completely change.
That's what I'm saying. That was before the whole thing. So we might see a bigger push with the new staff for some high school guys in the February signing period. But a lot is up in flux, just depending on what the new staff wants to do from a staff perspective, player perspective, recruiting perspective. So still a lot to figure out.
You also mentioned Prosper, and let me tell you, man, there are some football players in Prosper right now. They have got multiple teams that are really good, still playing. It is that is a hotbed for high school football right now.
It is. It really is. I mean, and like I said, that all 5 guys on that O line going D1, and so it'll be interesting.
Yeah, well, there is plenty of other news. We're going to show it right here. Just a little bit ago on Dave Campbell's Texas Football, Carter Yates at, that says 3:18 a.m. I believe that clock was 12 hours behind, to be honest with you. Caleb Weaver has entered the transfer portal. And Ben, I think this was one. There have been a few others, and I want you to get into those, but this is the most recent one. Man, I don't know, man. Hey, look, Josh wants some positive news. The transfer portal's making him sad. Josh, we'll try to get you some positive coming up. I don't know that we have a ton that today. Here's one, too. Is Cassidy coaching in the bowl game from Chris on Facebook? That's a great question.
Yeah, I haven't asked that question yet. I talked to Skyler after the Liberty game. That was the last time I had talked to him. Got word of him going to UNT about a day or two before it broke. I haven't talked to him. It's very hard to figure out what's going on within the team because some of the coaches have left, especially some of the people that I talk to on a regular basis. So things are definitely in a little bit of flux, but should know more on that probably in the next 24 to 48 hours. I would say probably no, because he's probably on the recruiting trail for North Texas already. Would assume if he's not coaching.
Look, he got like a 400% increase. He's not coaching Sam Houston, I don't think, in the bowl game. Yeah, he's got to be. Like, they're not signing him and announcing it unless he's out there for them on the trail right now, in my opinion.
Yeah, and what was it? With Cassidy, if he's not, assuming he's not coaching the bowl game, I would expect Reggie Johnson to probably step in and be the play caller for the defense. That would be my thought. He was the co-DC at Missouri State before he came here, probably the most veteran guy in the group there. And he is the linebackers coach, and Kavian Gaither's the one calling the plays in. So I'm assuming it would probably be Reggie Johnson if Skylar Cassidy isn't there.
And Jason Plotkin has a good question here. May have missed it. Colton Foster reported bowl game announcement on Friday. Is that confirmed?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure he probably got that from someone at the groundbreaking for the stadium today. So I'm not saying that isn't true, but I do know the team knows where they're going. The administration knows where they're going. It sounds like they found that out. What is today? Wednesday, Monday night, Tuesday morning is when they found out. So yeah, it doesn't surprise me that it would be announced Friday. Sounds like the team is known for about 48 hours now.
All right. Well, there's some news. Maybe that made Josh a little bit happier. But again, transfer portal, man. Caleb Weaver going in. This one is a surprise. It really kind of is.
Yeah.
I mean,
it is. It
wasn't expected.
Yeah, it wasn't expected on our end. I mean, won't get too much into it. Had a conversation with him the other day, but yeah, it was a little bit surprising. But I mean, with the way things go with the transfer portal and college football nowadays, things change every day. And just because things were one way one day doesn't mean they'll be that way the next day. So you got to take it with a grain of salt.
Yeah. And that's just kind of, that's honestly, that's just the world we live in nowadays.
Right.
It's just the world of college football, right? Especially when your coach leaves. And that is what happened. And so Caleb's in the portal. And who are some of the others that are in the portal, notable that entered the portal here since the regular season ended? Because some entered the portal even before Keeler announced he was leaving.
Well, there actually weren't any, surprisingly.
Really?
Yeah, this year. There were some last year before the season ended, but really everybody's kind of a notable name in some way, shape, or form so far. There's been 5. The first one was Jay Ducker, running back, leading rusher from this year. The other one was John Gentry. Gentry didn't play. Man. Yeah, Gentry didn't play really at all the back half of the year, mainly due to a knee injury. He did recover that onside kick against Liberty, so that was good for him. I was happy for him there. But so you lose those 2 running backs. You also lost Jaden Cardell, like I said a minute ago, the punter. And then Jace Bauer also entered the portal, backup quarterback. That one's not too surprising. So you got Weaver, Bauer, Cardell, Ducker, and Gentry. So those are the 5 in there right now. I'm sure there'll be more. I've heard talkings of at least one other notable name probably entering the portal. So we'll see.
I think Ducker and Weaver are the 2 that probably hurt the most. But at the same time, you want the positive side of this. Running backs can be found. Running backs can be found in the portal really quick.
You've still got a pretty good group there. DJ McKinney is going to be a redshirt sophomore next year, assuming he comes back. You still got Zach Krabachik, who I believe would stay. I mean, obviously not 100%, but I know he likes it here. You've also got Coco Brown back there, who showed some good stuff as a true freshman. So you've got 3 guys that I think can really play at this level. And like you said, you can pick up a running back if you need to. They're not too difficult to find. It's not an offensive tackle or an edge rusher kind of thing.
Hey, look, go to the Australian kicking, right? Like, I mean, we've had some of those.
Yeah.
Sam Houston's had some of the Australian kickers. For punters, you can find a good one.
Yeah, and I mean, you've still got a kicker for next year as of now. You have a kid, Joe Nelson, who is a true freshman. He can kick and punt. Didn't see action this year, but he's a possibility there. And like you said, you can find a punter somewhere.
Yeah, well, I know a place that you can find all of this information ahead of time. And that's called the exclusive Cat Fund section over at catfans.com. That's a place to go. Here's a good question before we really get into Cat Fund. Before you start that one, Chris Gilstrap has another question. DJ Bailey, that's his biggest concern. Any word on DJ Bailey?
Yeah, DJ is definitely one to watch. Has been one to watch for a lot of this year, not necessarily due to playing time, really. I just don't know if Sam Houston is 100% the best fit for him, but I think he's got the talent to start, but he's still a year or two away. I've known for a little while now that he could enter the portal this offseason, but I don't think that's for sure, but it wouldn't shock me if DJ Bailey did go to the portal. I'd probably put that one at a 50-50.
Yeah, and look, I would be more excited about the quarterback from Pflugerville coming in.
Well, and
DJ right now.
You've got Hunter Watson. Well, obviously, we'll see if the new staff wants to keep him, if he's still going to be the guy, if he comes back, if he wants to come back. Another name people haven't really talked about is Silas Gomez. I mean, Gomez showed a lot of progress this spring and has grown every single year that he's been here. So you've got those two guys, and you've got Jax Brown from Pflugerville Weiss, like you said. So even if DJ isn't back, you've still got three options that could either start now or develop for another year and maybe be able to be the guy. So, yeah, we'll see what happens with DJ. Still a quarterback room with quite a few names in there right now.
Loving the comments today. Here's another one. Jason Plotkin, since Frisco Bowl announced, I don't even know what in the world language you just put in there, Jason. What do you think? I'm educated over here? Stop.
Something French. That's what I see.
Oh, that's how.
I thought you got
Internet.
The French Quarter.
Internet, right? French model. Jason's a French model.
Oh, yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
Putting pieces together.
That's right. 1 and 1 makes 2, Ben. I do know a little bit of math.
Know something other than football.
Not really. But I do know that the Cat Fund is a place to go and a place to help support our athletes here at Sam Houston, and boy, do they need it. If you want to keep them out of the portal, this is one way that can really help. So, Ben, tell them how they can get involved.
Yeah, cat-fund.com. You can sign up and become a member on a monthly or annual basis. We also have our Keep the Cats campaign, which we put live on Facebook. I believe it was yesterday. Yeah, it was yesterday. It's a $93.60 donation to commemorate the 9-3 season and the 936. So you can find that on the Facebook pages for Sam Houston Athletics over there. We're going to have a hard launch on the Twitter/X and Instagram and some other platforms probably within the next 24 hours. We've had a really good start to it so far. So that's the Keep the Cats campaign that we'll be starting. Definitely want to sign up and be a part of that so you can support these athletes and help us keep as many as we possibly can and be able to go find athletes and players for when the new staff comes in. So cat-fund.com, look for the Keep the Cats campaign that's coming up. And if you become an annual or monthly member, you get access to exclusive content, Cat Fund merchandise, stuff like that. We've had some exclusive content over there. I broke the Keeler leaving news probably about 2 hours before it was officially confirmed on there. So we had that. I had Cassidy to North Texas on there. Have some other staff movements with one other staff member that is going to Temple on there. And so lots going on right now, and definitely want to sign up and become a member.
No doubt you will find it. But we have some more comments here. Jason says, let the good times roll. Yes. Yeah, well, and then he wants to put Josh Shepard says, let the good times roll in what?
Creole,
right? Is that no?
It's just Creole.
Am I showing my redneck again?
Yeah.
Why?
Maybe a little more Cajun in you.
Listen, where I live, we learned Spanish, and I wasn't very good at that either. So David Fish. Josh says David Fisher quote tweeted both the Cassidy move and Weaver portal announcement with thinking emojis. Is there any reason why for that? Maybe because it was unannounced to the rest of the team?
Yeah, it could be part of it because the expectation was for Caleb to probably come back. But, I mean, you never know with what these guys are tweeting. It could be – I saw what he tweeted. It's like the guy with the monocle. Maybe he's looking at where Weaver's going next or something like that or whatever it might be. I mean, it's hard to read into these emojis and cryptic tweets and stuff like that. But I mean, it could definitely be what he said there.
I don't know what you did, but you did it.
I said Creole. That's all I did.
Look at you, man. Look at you. You are killing it. You know who else is killing it? Our friends over at Eternal Roofing. So let's give them another shout here before we move on into the leg that I think most people are interested in when we talk about all the coaching stuff here.
Eternal Roofing is locally owned and dedicated to giving back to the community by supporting local organizations and charities. They are also the winner of Nextdoor's Neighborhood Faves for 2 consecutive years. And as you know, if you've listened to this podcast, Eternal Roofing is your choice for Christmas lights. They provide premium lights tailored to fit your home, season-long maintenance, and hassle-free removal. Kyle Tatum said, "They're very professional and great quality, on time and clean, and really made me feel like they cared for me and my home." Give Eternal Roofing a call today at area code 830-251-5673 or area code 936-215-8539, or you can email Taylor at eternalroofingtx.com.
And again, big thank you to our friends over at Eternal Roofing. And so now we are moving in. This is it, guys. You've waited 40 minutes plus whatever it was for us to go live on the air. Now we're going to talk about it. Casey Keeler went to Temple. Let's just, there's been a lot of things that have gone on in chat on message boards here with all this. There's been some that don't understand why. He's from Pennsylvania. He's from not far from Temple. He's a New Jersey guy. He was at Rowan. He's a Northeastern guy. He's 66 years old. He was making $625,000 at Sam Houston. Not bad money. Not at all, but you know, he's going to be making probably closer to $2 million a year up there at Temple.
Yeah, the previous coach was making 1.8 there.
Yeah, he's going to get close to that, right? So he is close to retirement age. He sees that. He wants to be closer to home. He loves the Northeast. He loves Philadelphia. Philadelphia and New Jersey, there's really no difference. Like, they're only an hour apart from each other. There's just so many things that when I heard that he was in for the Rice job, I said, no. When I heard he was in for the Temple job, I went, uh-oh.
Yeah. Yeah, I did, and a lot of people don't realize it, but I saw a Temple person, one of their beat guys, mention it on Twitter the other day, but the amount of former Keeler players that are high school coaches or lower level college coaches in the Pennsylvania, Delaware, New Jersey area is crazy. I mean, he is just as well sourced up there as he is down here in Texas. And he's going to have, he's got relationships there. And he's going to be able to get guys from high schools and smaller colleges, FCS, D2, stuff like that from there, just because of the relationships he has. And I mean, it's a big part of it. Being close to home.
He's got more there than he does in Texas.
He's spent more time there than he has in Texas total. I mean, between Rowan and Delaware and being from there, I mean,
and when you've got Don Bosco,
yeah,
it's right there.
Right. So, I mean, and Temple's had success in the past. We've seen what they did under Matt Rule. And so if you get the right guy in there, it's a team that can play well and do really good things. You're muted, Corey.
Well, there we go. Look at that. Jason Plotkin has a question for Mr. Hoke. Do we know where Keeler prefers getting his Philly cheesesteak? I know. See, I'm not very familiar with the whole cheesesteak game up there. I know there's like one place in Philly everyone swears by, and that's, if I know Casey Keeler, that's probably the one place he likes. He swears by too.
Yeah, we'll speak on behalf of him.
Sure. I personally have never been in Philly. I have zero desire to visit Philly for whatever reason. I don't know. I'm sure it's a wonderful place, but it's not worth me going in there and getting whatever anxiety comes from that town to get a cheesecake.
Yeah, I've got some family there, so that just moved to Philadelphia probably about 6 months ago. So
See, my
from everyone's
family's from
home,
the other side. My
yeah,
family's from the Pittsburgh, Erie side, the western side of Pennsylvania. So I know all Pittsburgh all the way up there. Yes, I'm a Pittsburgh guy, Steel City, right? Love Erie, love it. That's where my dad's from. But
right.
I don't know anything, dude. The furthest I've been in Pennsylvania, I went to college or to state college, to where Penn State is. Right,
Yeah.
that's where I went. That's about halfway through. That's about the furthest east I've been in Pennsylvania. When I did go to New Jersey for my wedding, I, you know, it was always a whirlwind. Number one, and number two, good God, head starts spinning when you get around that many people.
It's cold too. Very cold.
Well, this was May, so it wasn't that
Oh.
bad. But I've been there. I've been there in the snow. We've been up there. We had actually we went up in February once, talking to the parents and stuff, getting things set up for the wedding, and missed the flight. Flight got canceled because of snow. So we have had that happen before. So that's the first thing. Now, here's the next question for you, Ben. Who are some of the other coaches that we think are going, or we already know are going? Is there anyone we could put out going to Temple with Keeler?
Yeah, I mean, the only one I know for sure is Director of Player Personnel, GM Clayton Barnes is going with Keeler, which should come as a surprise to no one. The GMs and head coaches kind of travel in tandem there, so he will be going up there to Temple. But I haven't heard anything else on anyone else. Brad Cornelson is the interim head coach right now, so he's definitely going to be staying at least through the bowl game, it sounds like. But yeah, Cassidy going to North Texas, Clayton going with Keeler to Temple, which should come as no surprise, and Keeler leaving. And then we'll see how the rest shakes out. I mean, it really depends on the new head coach, and do they want to bring in their staff or kind of mix in the current staff with new staff. And so we'll see how it shakes out.
Okay, so now it's time to be completely honest. You cannot fault these people that want to go to Temple with Coach Keeler. It is a different money level than Sam Houston. If you don't want them leaving, you're going to have to pay more money.
Yeah.
And the way the school gets more money is from donors. That's really what it comes down to here.
Yeah, and Sam Houston is either the lowest or probably second lowest funded FBS program in the country, and
Yes.
So you've got to figure out a way to be more competitive. I think Keeler's buyout is going to help. About 1.3 million. Have heard that is a thing, that there is a buyout there that Sam Houston will receive about 1.3 million. So need to use that wisely. And
I haven't been able to track that down at all. Like, honestly, that contract, I know Colton Foster, he had did a FOIA and got it, but Keeler's wasn't on file. That's a little strange.
Well, I think the buyout number was from the USA Today article. It had the buyout in there, and I've heard from one or two people that there is a buyout in there. So
awesome. Well, here is a good question that has nothing to do with coaching right now, but Josh wants to know, how will merchandise be purchased for the bowl game?
Yeah, I mean, we're all new to it. We've never been to a bowl game. I do know for like the FCS title game, there would be stuff at the game. I think there were some shirts when we won the title game that were at local academies and Dick's and stuff like that. And I think there were maybe a couple you could buy before. I do know there is going to be some sort of pregame or night before reception hosted by University Advancement, most likely. From what it sounds like, I would imagine they might have some merch available there. So whether it be at an event in New Orleans, afterwards, beforehand, I would imagine there's something there. The R+L Carriers Bowl also has a website. And so they might have some official merchandise you can buy through the bowl itself and maybe not through the school. But I would imagine there's going to be merchandise available in one way or another.
Check with the team store. A lot of these FBS teams will have, the team store will have shirts available as well.
Yeah, I would probably say the bookstore at Sam Houston. Yeah, because that's kind of, or Barefoot even. Barefoot might get something.
Or Fanatics.
Yeah, you never know.
They run the college merch world these days anyway.
Yeah, I would say the safest bet is either at the game itself or through the bowl website. Because I mean, the bowl website's probably going to have something there.
eBay's not safest, is it?
A little secondhand
Yeah, I'm just asking.
through eBay, reselling it.
Look, Keeler wasn't the only coach lost this week. Defensive coordinator, Skylar Cassidy. And dare I say, Skylar wasn't going to be here next year. I mean, when you're talking about the lowest funded and you're paying the assistants lower than most any other FBS school, you're not going to keep a guy so good whose name is so hot. He went to North Texas, and now Ben, he's teamed up with Eric Morris. That offensive mind, that defensive mind, the last time I saw that with Eric Morris, they almost beat Sam Houston in the second round of the FCS playoffs at Sam Houston. Like, all of a sudden, the Mean Green became really good.
A little meaner, yeah.
I mean, they became good.
They're a team that I felt like was in a 48-42 or 49-42 game every week. And so if they could figure out how to play a little bit of defense, they are going to be really scary.
Yes, they will. And so now let's start. What's a timeline for the new hire? What has Bobby said he wants to get this done?
Yeah, he said on the well, I heard this the day Casey left from a source, and then Bobby said the exact same thing on the podcast. Is he wants to have the hire in place by the bowl game. So the 19th is likely when we're going to go to a bowl game in New Orleans, and so we're looking at probably something in the next 10-ish days. If you want to have the hire fully.
2 weeks, Bobby.
Yeah, 10 days to 2 weeks, kind of 10 to 14 days if you want to have it in place, fully in place, probably have the press conference done before the bowl game. And so I would say end of next week is kind of when I'm expecting. So probably the, I don't know, what is that, the 13th-ish? I've heard that, and he talked about it this week on the podcast, that these first couple days are all going to be about who's interested in the job, vetting out who they want to interview, who are the top candidates. And from what I've heard, this weekend, early next week is when they'll do interviews. Those will probably take a couple days. And then I'm thinking into next week is when we'll make a hire.
I just heard something from you I didn't really like.
What's that?
He wants to know who's interested. It's not how you do it, man. Well, that's not how you do it in this age of college athletics. Well, you got to go find your man.
Well, he did say he's been contacted by search firms and that he was going to use a very small circle of people that he is close with at the university that work for the university. And so I think, and I've heard there's probably 3 or 4 people that are Sam Houston alums that have either played or coached here before that have reached out with interest. And then we'll see who reaches out with interest externally that hasn't been at Sam Houston, or who we might reach out to externally that might have interest. And so that's kind of the timeline I've heard, the timeline I'm expecting. We're probably looking at end of next week, the 13th, 14th kind of thing is my guess. And that's what I'm expecting as far as the timeline.
Okay. Now, what should the Cats look for? Jesus, man, there's a right way and a wrong way to do these things, right? And I'm a firm believer in that you go find the person that's going to fit your program, that's going to, if you want to be successful, if Sam Houston is dead serious about being a competitive team in Conference USA and maybe even possibly getting up to higher conferences, you're going to have to win at football. And if you're serious about winning at football, you're going to go do what it takes to make the right hires. And I'm going to tell you right now, my opinion, and this is simply Corey Hogue's opinion, the right hire is not an alum who played or coached here in the past. You got to go find someone who knows how to do this at a lower level that will accept the money. Because you're not, here's the thing. With the amount of money that you offer a coach at Sam Houston, you're not going to pull in any names that you might want, right? Like you're not pulling in any FBS names. You've got to go find some guys.
Yeah, and I just saw the question from Brian Jetson. We hit on this a little earlier. London Dion from Galveston Ball has not officially signed yet. He's one of the 3 that had verbally committed that hasn't yet. He did post 2 days ago that he was signing today. Haven't seen that on his Instagram, Twitter, or the team site yet. So he has not signed just yet. We'll see how that one shakes out. But back to kind of the candidate pool, I think there's 1 or 2 names that are former players and coaches that could succeed. Haven't been head coaches before, but I think they would have a chance to succeed here because they know the culture, they know what it takes to succeed, and I think they have what it takes to be a successful head coach. But I agree. I think you have to look external. You have to at least see what's out there. Look at a couple candidates that maybe interest you. See who reaches out to you. And Bobby talked about it during the podcast. He said they would definitely prefer someone that has been within the program, but it's not a guarantee, and that they would look external if they had to. And it worked for Keeler with that hire, and I think it definitely can work again if you want to go get – I know you brought up a very interesting name when we were texting earlier.
I've got some names we're going to talk about. Yeah.
Yeah. You brought up a very interesting name. I brought up a hot coordinator name. But yeah, I think you've got to at least look external. You've got to cover all the bases when you're looking at who you want to bring in the interview.
All right. So let's get into some of these, and we'll start with Dave Campbell's Texas Football College Insider editor, Mike Craven, and he had some names to know for Sam Houston opening. Now, this was an insider piece here, so if you want to see all of it, subscribe. We would appreciate it at Dave Campbell's Texas Football. But there's a few names in there that I do want to go over. There were big swings, not a chance. Realistic. Let's go with realistic. Keith Patterson, not happening. He's not leaving Abilene Christian for Sam Houston, man.
I mean, I think it's a step up. I'm not sure the money there. Do you know what the money situation is for his contract there?
Well, no, because it's a private school, so we're not able to get that stuff. But most FCS head coaches, they're in that 250,000 range. Yeah, so yeah, the money could be a step up, but see, Keith is. I don't see KP as a guy that wants to go. That would that would be his place, right? Like I just don't know that he fits at Sam Houston.
Well, and you know better than me what he comes with and what he's looking for. I think personally, if we were able to make that hire, I think I would be pretty happy about it. But obviously, you know the ACU scene better than most people, and so.
Well, I know they're going to play North Dakota State this weekend.
Yeah, we've been there before.
Yeah. Another one there, Chris McCullough, hot young coach, UT Permian Basin, definitely a name, but not a name for right now.
No, I think it's similar to Cassidy. I know some people were wanting Cassidy to step up. Great coordinator, could probably coach at the FCS D2 level, but he's just not quite there at the FBS level.
Peter Rosamondo from Lamar. Look, I think he'd be a great choice. I just don't think Bobby will do it.
Yeah, I don't know. I would if he had turned Lamar into a 10-win team for a couple of years in a row, I'd maybe look at it. I know him having a winning record at Lamar through 2 years is a minor miracle, but I don't know. It just doesn't exactly fit. And like you said, I don't think Bobby would do it either.
They had winning records in consecutive seasons for the first time since 1967.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Impressive stuff.
It's a minor miracle what he's done, and
that's 2 years
before he got there. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that program is on the rise, right? Like, is Rosamondo a name for right now? No, he's one to watch. Clint Killow, UIW. Listen, for a guy like him, he can be very, very picky about what he wants to do, and he he needs to look for a place similar to like a Texas State, like GJ had, more than he needs a Sam Houston.
And he's another one too that, I mean, he's shown he can lead UIW, but I don't know if he's the right fit. I mean, he's another guy that's just very young, and I think that's off-putting to some people. Maybe not me specifically, but I know to some people, I wouldn't be opposed to it.
Tim Doust, I've heard that name a couple times.
This is a very interesting name. So he was very close to coming back to Sam Houston in a position last year and didn't come through, ended up at Pitt. Players love him. I've seen a couple former players mention his name, but he's a guy that has some very good ties to some administrators here. People loved him when he was here. He's been a defensive coordinator at the FBS level. And so I think that's a very intriguing name. I think it's kind of a wild card, but it wouldn't shock me if he's in the mix.
It's DCF pick, but let's I realize it's not. This is Craven's piece. He did this without any of my input, but this was also my pick. If I had to pick one, I want Ryan Carty, my man.
I mean,
and he fits that mold.
So he is a dream scenario for Sam Houston, but he has his alma mater, which he loves, moving in a great direction. And the thing with Keeler went from Delaware to Sam Houston, but Keeler also got fired and didn't coach for a year before he got to Sam Houston. Carty's right in the middle of a great run with Delaware, pushing him to the FBS level, and I just don't see him leaving his alma mater. And I think the money's, if anything, it might be worse than Delaware.
Do you really think so?
Yeah, I mean, Delaware's got some money. Maybe not from a head coaching perspective, but from a staff pool perspective, I think the money is similar, if not more, at Delaware.
You might be right. Head football coaches right here. Ryan Carty, $536,000. It's not much of a raise to go to Sam Houston.
Yeah, and it's probably only going to go up.
Oh, yeah.
It looks like his salary went from $315,000 to $450,000 like last year. So
here's wild cards. I don't think they'll be wild cards, to be honest with you. Matt Pallage and Josh McCown.
Yeah, Matt Pallage is a name that I have heard a lot. I think he's from Huntsville, born and raised in Huntsville. It says it right there too. Played at Sam Houston, coached at Sam Houston. Makes a lot of sense. A guy with Texas ties. He fits Bobby's mold for wanting to be a former Sam Houston guy, a DC at the FBS level for a couple of years now. He was also the co-DC at Oregon 2 years ago when Dan Lanning first got to Oregon. And then the last name on there, Josh McCown, I have heard has expressed interest in the job. And McCown is interested in this position. It would be a little bit of a transition with him being with the Vikings in the middle of a playoff run. I'm not sure how that would work out, but McCown is interested. And a thing with Josh too is you probably don't have to worry about money, at least from a head coaching perspective, if McCown comes in. And so you might be able to spend a little more on.
He's not going to want to get paid.
Well, I mean, not a lot. Yeah, that's for sure.
Well, yeah, I mean, look, if you're looking for people on the cheap, I've got a problem already with the search.
But the thing with, I mean, I get that. I 100% get that. But I think with McCown could actually come in and not rejuvenate, but continue to put life into this program. I think it would get people excited. This is a guy that, I mean, circumstances were a little crazy, but almost got the Houston Texans job 2 years ago. He wants to be a head coach. And another thing, too, if McCown comes, and I don't think this is the reason why you should do that, is there's a chance maybe he brings Owen McCown with him. And Owen McCown just had a fantastic year at UTSA. And so you have that maybe in your back pocket. Maybe he wants to stay at UTSA. I mean, I'm not speaking for him, but that's a possibility. And so I think McCown would come in for the cheap, but I think he could actually be a decent hire.
Look, I'm willing to give him a chance if that's the route they go. That's just not my preferred choice right now. And you know, you talked earlier about Keeler's coaching tree. You know, it does include Dan Lanning, right?
And two other names I want to mention. Obviously, Dan Lanning's not coming to Sam Houston, unfortunately.
No.
That should have been the
No.
DCTF pick. That would be the dream pick, right?
That's a wild card.
Yeah. So 2 other names. The first one is Phil Longo. Phil Longo is very interested in the job from what I've heard. Another guy that wants to come back to Texas. Doesn't sound like he needs a ton of money, just wants to get back to Texas. This is kind of his dream job and where he wants to be. Has a lot of ties here. So that's one to watch that I have heard is interested. And another name that is a very big wild card is, and I haven't heard much about this outside of Sam Kahn's article in The Athletic, is Tom Herman. Another guy
No,
that
not a chance.
that's what it's a very, very big wild card, but another guy with Sam Houston ties that is out there on the market now. Don't think it'll happen, but just another name to throw on people's radar.
Any other names that you think that are out there right now?
Yeah, I mean, well, I'm sure you'll throw. Are you going to throw out your names? Because
yeah, I'm going to
Okay.
throw mine out. I'm just seeing if you've got any others before I start coming in here and trying to throw out grenades.
Yeah, 2 more. I think, and this was in Sam Kahn's article too. I hadn't even thought of this one. Is Craig Navar, the defensive coordinator at Coastal Carolina, has a lot of Texas ties. Has coached in Texas for a while. I think he's one. And then another wild card name that I've kind of liked is Brennan Marion. Former position coach at Texas, now the offensive coordinator at UNLV. I think he could be an exciting name that you could probably afford, and I think he could succeed. So those are some of the names that I've heard, some of the names I think might be interested. And now it's your turn, Corey.
Well, no, I'm. Look, I'll mention Craig Navar as one that I'm all right with here. 4-year letter winner, Hardin Simmons. He played safety and quarterback at Division III. I realize that's D3, but that's still pretty darn good.
Yeah, that's tough to do.
It is. He started. That's where he got his start. He's been at TCU. He's been at Sam Houston before. Texas State, Rice a couple times, Texas a couple years. He's been at Houston, USC, SMU. He really knows Texas. That would and look. He's been around. That would be a pretty solid hire, in my opinion. That would be a solid.
Coastal Carolina's been a good team too.
Yeah, but that's not how we do it, man. That's not how we're going to do this, man. Look, you put Corey Hogan in charge of a search. This is what I'm going to do. I am going to go find my coach. I ain't waiting on nobody. I'm going to go get him. Right? And here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go find someone that I know is going to be okay with $600,000 to $700,000 a year. So let's give them a raise, maybe double what they're making right now. And also someone who's going to be able to work within a very, very small pool for assistants and staff, right? Because that's a problem in FBS with Sam Houston right now until the donors decide to pour in more money, if there are the donors that can pour the money in there. So here we go, Ben. I'm going to throw out my first name, and this right now is my top candidate for the job. Love this dude. Love this guy. You want someone to come in and keep this program going. You're going to Idaho, and you're getting Jason Eck. And let me tell you why. Jason Eck, his salary is like 175 base with an annual raise from Learfield, right? So, okay, so 225, 250. And a buyout, $525,000. You're getting a $1.3 million buyout. I know some of that's got to go for staff and stuff, but listen, if some of that ain't going in to try and help you grab the guy you need to lead the program, then I don't think you're doing things exactly the correct way.
And Eck has done an incredible job at Idaho. I know
that's a hard place, man, to win. I know the Kibbe Dome is cool. I get that, but my goodness, I remember the Idaho Vandals that have been so bad.
Yeah, well, outside of the Dakota schools, I mean, Idaho is one of the most notable names, if not the most notable name, outside of those Dakota schools.
16-9 in 2 seasons before this year, right? 12-4 in the Big Sky. We know
they're the 8th seed in the FCS playoffs. I mean, like I said, they are one of the names to know outside of the Dakotas at the FCS level.
They came in and beat Abilene Christian earlier this year in a heck of a.
They almost beat Oregon. They were with Oregon for 3.5 quarters.
Well, then they did beat, who was it, Wyoming?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, this guy knows. Jason Eck is a darn football coach. When I see him, when I listen to him, when I watch his teams, the man knows ball. You know who
He's
else
got some
does that?
energy too. He's fun.
Yes. You know who else is like that?
Who
Casey
is-
Keeler's a lot like that, right? Like,
it's kind of a similar like guy up in one of the corners of the country coming down to Texas from FCS to FBS kind of thing.
yeah, I'm all for that. Now, before we go into my next one, Chris Gilstrap has another question. Any talk about Matt Wells? How about
Yeah.
we not?
Yeah, I've heard that name
I'm
brought
not
up.
a fan
I've,
of Matt Wells.
I've heard there's
myself.
no traction with that name so far.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of that one. That would not be one I would want. Not that anyone really gives a darn, because first off, we know Bobby, and nobody going to tell him about this damn podcast anyway. And if he did, he ain't going to listen to what the hell Corey Hogue has to say up in Wichita Flippin' Falls, right? Like, let's be honest. But I'm going to throw out some names. Maybe somebody somewhere can go, hey, Bobby, I heard this guy. Could be pretty good. We got Jason Eck. That's number one. But if Jason says, no, thank you, Brent Vigen, Montana State.
I heard he's taken a job somewhere,
I have not heard that.
or maybe he was in the mix somewhere.
He's got to be in the mix, man. Like, he's been at Montana State since 2021. He's the son of a small town football coach. He comes up now. Yeah, he's a northern guy, so I'm not sure he'd want to come down here much either. But I mean,
Okay.
dude.
What it was him and Matt Ince were the finalists for the Fresno State job, and it sounds like Ince got it. That's what it was.
Okay. Well, Vigen grew up in North Dakota. He is a North Dakota State kind of guy, right? Like, he's got that experience. I think he would be a good secondary hire if Jason Eck was no. So here's what we're going to do here in the last few minutes that we're going to have on this podcast today. Let's go through and let's do our wish list. Who we want, not based on the terms of the names we've given, who would
Dan
be
Lanning.
your top 3 right now?
Oh gosh, I haven't even thought about that. Okay. I mean, since Cardi's name is in here, I'm going to put Cardi 1, even though I don't think that's very realistic. I'm going to say Cardi. I'm going to give it Cardi, I think, would be interested. I don't think you would do it. So Cardi 1, that's probably the dream pick. I'm going to put McCown number 2. I've just heard there's a lot of positive momentum that people feel really good about him. I think he can lead this program. Maybe he brings Owen. You never know. I think there would just be an energy throughout the program that it really needs right now. And so that's kind of the hometown tie one. And then the third one, I love your Jason Eck one. I don't really see it happening. That's kind of why I have it third. But I'd go Cardi number 1. I'd go McCown number 2, and then I would go Eck number 3.
Well, we mentioned this name earlier. Chris Gilstrap wants to know Phil Longo.
Yeah, Phil Longo is
he's in it. He's in it, but he's
he is
definitely not in the
100%.
top 3 for me.
He's 100% interested in this job. I would not have him in my top 3 right now.
I have heard, and I'm just going to say this. I have heard that he doesn't have a chance, really. That like he's interested, but that it may not be reciprocated as much as some people think it is.
My worry is you've got to figure out the defensive side of the ball. I think he'd figure out the offense. I'm not worried about that, but can you play complementary football that can win games? Is my worry. I wouldn't be mad if we hired Longo. I think there'd be some pluses to it, but I don't think he's in my top 3. Cardi, number 1. I mean, it's a little bit of everything. Cardi, I think there's a chance, but I don't think he's coming back. McCown, I think there's a legit shot there, and I like him a lot. And then Eck is kind of that wild card on the outside. So those are my 3.
Keeler wasn't a complimentary football guy when he arrived either. Let's remember that. You know, they made that switch about 2018.
18 going into 19, and it took about 2 years for it to fully turn.
Yeah,
but I mean, the non-complimentary football didn't win you championships and didn't really get you past the second, maybe third round.
Oh God, it got you blown out on national TV. Is what it got you. Jesus, those were bad. All right, my top 3. We know my number 1 is Jason Eck. I really think. I know you say you don't think it's possible. Knowing his salary that he makes now and the buyout, I think he's a guy. I think that's a name that could be, if they want to go find the coach, that's your guy. So he's my number one. My number two is Ryan Carty. But I'm with you. I don't think that he leaves Delaware just because you mentioned it. The funding's probably a little better and he gets paid pretty close. So there's really no, and that's his home, right? Like he loves it up there. You would really have to entice Ryan Carty to come down here.
Right.
Number three, I'm going with one you mentioned, Craig Naivar.
Yeah.
I really think he would be a guy to come in. It would be his first head coaching job, but I think he could be very, very successful at it.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got we thankfully we will be on next week, and then we'll be on the 18th. So hopefully by the 18th show we have a head coach. If not, we won't be talking about it for a while because we are taking Christmas and New Year's Day off. Just letting you guys know there will be no March to the Pod on Christmas or New Year's Day.
Yeah. And I'll add one more thing on kind of my favorites. If the search ends up just being former Sam Houston people, my list is going to go McCown 1, Powledge 2, and then probably Navar 3.
Yeah.
If the search trends that way, which it very well could. So, I mean, that's kind of a third option or a second way to look at a top 3.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a big fan of, finding that up and comer because here's the situation. Here's why I really lean that way for Sam Houston. Sam Houston's not going to be at the top of budget anytime soon in Conference USA, much less FBS. Right? We let's just put that out there. Unless people actually want to start coming forward and give him more money, that's just not going to happen. So if that's the case, if you truly want to be a championship program, you truly care about, you have to go find your guy that's going to fit. You have to become what Bowling Green was for a few years back when Urban Meyer kind of stopped through there and some others on their way to bigger jobs. Be that school that coaches are known for coming and then jumping up, because you're going to get to bowl games and you're going to be successful that way, number one. And number two, you will never have a shortage of people who want to come here because they know if you do well at Sam Houston, you can get that better job.
Yeah, and if people are getting better jobs, it means they're winning here. So.
Yes, and if you want people to come to Sam Houston and stay, fork over the cash.
Yep.
That bottom line, do you want players? Fork over the cash. Guys, look, it's a money game. We're talking college football is a money game. You got to have money for NIL, you got to have money for coaches, it's all about the money. Life, everything goes on the money, especially college football now.
Yep.
Get involved if you really want to be good.
Yeah. I mean, got to have money, players, coaches. Before it was just coaches. Now you got to have it for players and coaches.
Yeah, and you know what? That money's going to come from somewhere too, right? So where does that money – who doesn't get that money?
Right. And if we don't give it to them, somebody else will.
Yeah, let me tell you, there's a guy out there in UTEP that's building a pretty darn good recruiting class right now.
Good old Scotty.
Got to love him, man. Dude takes his shirt off every time he gets a chance. He's envious of Colby, I think.
Yeah, I mean, Eric Musselman, the basketball coach, did that a couple times too. What's it with these coaches and keeping this? We need to start finding them or something. Maybe that'll put a stop to it.
There's been a thing in college football 2 weeks ago. There was why not talk about this right now? A couple weeks ago, it was field stormings, right? Everybody was storming the damn field after we beat the number 204 team. Woohoo, storm the field. My wife had this to say that we could stop that if we just put an electric fence around and just gave them a little zzz. Not hurt them.
Everybody's got to wear like a wristband or something. If they cross a certain point, they get shocked.
Yeah, those.
Yeah,
little reminder.
Just a little love tap.
And then this week was everyone planting flags on other people's field. Don't do that. Don't do that.
Everyone except Texas.
It is disrespectful, man. Like, no, you don't want that. Is players consider that their house. You want somebody coming into your house and putting that crap in them? No, Stop that stuff.
We got the
We got to have a little respect for each other.
Yeah, that's how we get the pepper spray going.
Well, hey, I will give them this. It was indiscriminate pepper spray, man. They were freewheeling that crap around for anybody out there. They weren't just aiming at Michigan people. These were some scared ass cops out there just waving at us. I've been there. I was a prison guard long ago. I've been there, man. Sometimes you just wave that pepper spray as you wave and pray. wave and pray. That's all you got.
And that's all we can do as a football program right now, too.
Yeah, Josh Shepard has a comment here. Bobby will make the right hire, and we're in a recruiting hotbed. As Keeler said, Texas, Texas, and Texas in his Temple speech. Look, I love the fact, Josh, that you have that kind of confidence in Bobby. I'm not going to say that I do keep that same amount of confidence, but that's a me thing. It's not anything.
I mean, he has
for a
historically
reason.
hired
I
well.
don't have a reason for that, right?
Football, he has historically hired very well.
He does, and you have to give him credit for that.
Yeah, and you just got to hope he can do it one more time. This is his last one.
Yeah, the reason why I'm not confident in this one, Ben, is because I'm not hearing the words that make me confident.
Yeah, we'll see.
Right? Like I'm hearing
also a
hearing
different
go for
level
the
of a hire.
cheap. Do what?
It's also a different kind of hire. This is an FBS hire. I mean,
It is. It
This
is.
is-
So we'll see what happens there. And yeah, a recruiting hotbed. Look, players, talent should not be a problem at Sam Houston, no matter who you bring in.
Yeah, and I mean, there's a lot of guys that went to bigger schools, and I mean, like Chris Murray, for example, just didn't exactly have what it takes at TCU, but man, he can play at this level. Or I mean, Jalen Jimerson, he played out at Liberty, but wanted to come back home for his senior year, and I mean, you get that advantage of guys just maybe not being good enough to play at a TCU or Texas, and then guys wanting to come home or something like that.
One more thing. Remember, guys enter the portal could get out. That does not mean
And they can still play in
necessarily
a bowl
that they're
game
leaving.
too. Yeah.
And they can play in the bowl game. So keep that in mind. Not saying that's going to happen, but you know, Caleb Weaver was a walk-on. That if that man wants to go and find his play, if he can play at a higher level, Godspeed, my man. Go do that.
Yeah.
If
All about
you
getting
find
paid.
out that it's not there for you, we'll welcome you back.
Yep.
And that goes for all those guys, really. I mean, that was a pretty good list of players that's entered the portal so far.
Yeah, it's not a lot, but it's quality over quantity.
It certainly is. Well, with that brings to close another episode. We had a lot to talk about in this one today. So thank you, Ben, for your patience and sticking around here. And thankfully, you were safely back from Bloomington yesterday. That had to be a heck of a whirlwind trip.
Snow.
Woo! Man,
Cold.
I hate that too. I hate cold. I hate snow. Yeah, I hate all that stuff. And we also want to give a big shout out to and big thank you to everyone watching, everyone listening, everyone who commented. Thank you so much. It makes this show so much more fun when we're able to interact with you a little bit. It is awesome. We will see what happens. We will be here again next week. But until then, Ben, we need a head football coach. Take us out with something that's going to find us one.
Eat 'em up, cats. Let's go find some money and get a good coach.
Let's go get that money tree.